Welcome back into the studio, everyone. I'm Carly Smith here with Rob Washburn for another week of 3 things to watch. And Rob, I can't believe this, but we're now about halfway through the CAA football season, and it doesn't get any easier. Looking ahead to week 7, we've got a highly contested CAA battle right out of the gate with New Hampshire hosting UAlbany in Durham. Wildcats head coach Rick Santos told us this is a must-win game, but we know that every week in CAA play is exactly that way. UNH is coming off of the bye week where Coach told us they really harped on fundamentals and productivity, whereas UAlbany, the Road Warriors, are riding the momentum of a win at Towson and have proved that defense does indeed travel. The Great Danes are first in the league in sacks, first in rushing defense, and they'll need that defense to travel once again to New Hampshire. Rob, what's your breakdown of this one?
Yeah, Carly, this is a fascinating matchup between one of the most prolific offenses in FCS in New Hampshire against one of the nation's top defenses in UAlbany. The Wildcats are averaging 431 yards and nearly 39 points per game behind a passing attack that is the best in the CAA. Quarterback Max Brosmer has thrown for over 280 yards and multiple touchdowns in 4 of UNH's 5 games, and he's spreading the ball around as 6 UNH players have at least 14 receptions. Now, we all know his top target is due everything running back Dylan Laube, the nation's leader in all-purpose yards, who tops the team in rushing and receiving, and he's also scored touchdowns this season on a kickoff return and a punt return. UNH will face its biggest test against UAlbany defense, which hasn't given up more than 319 yards and 17 points to an FCS opponent. We've talked in recent weeks about their pass rush that's tallied 24 sacks, but they're also getting outstanding play from linebackers Dylan Kelly, who was named the National Defensive Player of the Week after recording 23 tackles at Towson, and Origene Charles, who added 17 stops and an interception against the Tigers. Now, UAlbany is number 1 in the league against the run, and they forced 12 turnovers. This is a huge game for both teams, and I'm expecting it to be a close one.
Me too. Let's hear what UAlbany's Greg Gattuso and UNH's Rick Santos had to say prior to the matchup.
The quarterback is lights out. The running back obviously is, I think, as good a player that's ever played in this league. And they got good supporting role around it, and their coordinator and coaches do a great job. So they keep you on your toes. We know what we're in for. We've traveled to New Hampshire and played them a lot over the last 10 years I've been here. We've played well and tough there. It's a tough place to play. So
they can stop the run just with 4 guys there and not kind of adding anyone else in their scheme. So it's pretty impressive the way they do it. I think a lot of it too is their second level play. Dylan Kelly runs sideline to sideline. They don't miss many tackles. It's evident. So they tackle extremely well. They're physical at the point of attack. They're very well coached in terms of being sound and knowing exactly kind of what gaps that they have and everything like that. So testament to Coach Gattuso and their defensive staff and everything they're doing over there. I mean, they've been really stout for a long period of time on defense, and certainly hasn't changed this year.
Kickoff is at 1 p.m. on Flow Football, and kicking off simultaneously is our second thing to watch. Richmond travels north to face Rhode Island, another highly anticipated league game. Rhode Island just won their 5th consecutive Governor's Cup against Brown in Week 6, and Richmond's coming off of a 42-31 victory against Maine. Camden Coleman was honored as National Freshman of the Week after an outstanding performance in his first career start with the Spiders. Last week, he tied the Spiders' single-game record with 6 touchdown passes. How's that for adding some fuel to the fire? And the Spiders and the Rams are both 2-1 in league play. Why is this one crucial, Rob?
Yeah, Carly, it's crucial because both of these teams have their eyes set on contending for a CAA title and an FCS playoff berth, and the outcome of this game could play a big factor. Quarterback play is big each week, and this game features one of the youngest in the league going against one of the most experienced. You touched on the tremendous performance last Saturday by the Spiders' true freshman Cam Coleman, who was the team's number 4 quarterback when the season started. In just 3 halves of football over the past 2 weeks, he's thrown for 589 yards and 8 touchdowns while completing 70% of his passes. 4 of those TD passes have gone to Nick DeGennaro, who had a season-best 8 catches for 113 yards against Maine. On the other side is Rhode Island's Kasim Hill, who's etching his name in the record book during his 4th year as a starter for the Rams and his 7th year overall. He's thrown for over 200 yards in 5 of URI's 6 games and is third nationally with 14 touchdown passes. Hill has a bevy of big play options at his disposal with Katero Summers, Marquise Buchanan, and Darius Savage, all over 300 receiving yards with a combined 11 TD catches. The pressure will be on both of those guys to perform at a high level on Saturday.
That's right. Pressure is a privilege. Here's what Rhode Island's Jim Fleming and Richmond's Russ Huesman had to say prior to game day.
These offenses are all starting to look a little bit the same with little tweaks, but it's the operator that matters. And this quarterback had a great game last game, obviously. So, we've got our hands full, and they got to come in here and we got to be fully prepared and know that the rest of the way right now is all critically important for the goals that we've laid out for our football team.
So offensively, they're a whole lot to try to handle in a game. I mean, you're probably not going to shut them down. I mean, you just got to kind of limit, the possessions. You got to limit, what they do on each possession. You got to get off the field defensively.
As I mentioned earlier, kickoff is at 1 p.m. on Flow Football. Our third thing to watch features 2 teams receiving votes in the national polls, Elon and Villanova. The Wildcats enter this week 2-1 in the CAA, whereas the Phoenix lead the charge with a perfect 3-0 record in league play. Elon's coming off of a loss to North Carolina Central, whereas Nova just recently defeated North Carolina A&T in week 6. As Coach Ferrante told us, each week is a new week, and you better be prepared and ready to play a fast, physical, and aggressive style of football. This game will be no exception. Rob, what's your analysis?
Carly, I'm glad you brought up physical and aggressive football because I think that's going to be the key in this one, especially the performance on the offensive line. Now, during Elon's 3-game winning streak, the Phoenix averaged 205 yards rushing and only gave up 6 combined quarterback sacks. However, in last week's loss to North Carolina Central, Elon was held to a season-low 82 yards on the ground, and their quarterbacks were sacked 8 times. When this team is at its best, opponents are getting a steady dose of backs Jalen Hampton and Wayne Dixie, which then sets up the play-action pass. The story is the same for Villanova, which has averaged over 240 yards rushing in its 4 FCS wins, but was held to only 71 yards on the ground in a loss to UAlbany, in which quarterback Connor Watkins was sacked 8 times. The Wildcats got that fixed last week at North Carolina A&T as power back Jalen Jackson returned to Villanova's 3-back rotation, and they tallied 248 rushing yards. That led to big plays in the passing game to dangerous wideouts Rajon Pringle and Jalen Sanchez. The team that's able to control the line of scrimmage on Saturday is the one that will come out on top.
Go to work in the trenches. Let's hear more from Elon's Tony Trisciani and Villanova's Mark Ferrante prior to Saturday.
D. Will is good. Jalen, TD, all 3 of those guys are talented. They're really big up front, big offensive line. They're well coached, and talented receivers, Hayek and Pringle, both of those guys, experienced players, really good CAA wideout. So good offensive football team. They do a great job schematically. They're going to make you prepare. They're going to give you some different formations, some unbalanced, and they're a balanced offense. They can run the ball and throw it.
Each week is a new week. Each week, you better be prepared. You better be ready to play and strap it on, regardless of the records. In this case, they obviously have a great in-league record right now. So every game's important, and you got to approach every game the same, and you got to focus on what you're doing. You got to play, as I already mentioned, fundamentally sound football. You got to play aggressive style. You got to play physical. You got to tackle well. You got to not shoot yourself in the foot.
Tune into Flow Football at 1 p.m. to see the outcome of that one and many more. There's plenty to watch all around the league this Saturday. A total of 5 games kick off at 1 p.m. In addition to our 3 things to watch, Maine hosts LIU. Monmouth and Hampton will go at it in New Jersey. Delaware looks to stay undefeated at home as they welcome North Carolina A&T to Newark. And Stony Brook hosts a really talented Fordham squad on Long Island. Thanks as always for tuning in. For results, recaps, and more, visit CAAfootball.com and follow along on social media at CAA Football.